Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. They're giving all new customers a can't-miss offer right now. Bet just $1 on any football game this week and receive $200 in free bets instantly. I'm Chierstin Susel alongside Frank Sanders, Johnny Venerable. Guys, I actually put this in writing here. Like Ron Burgundy, I'm Chierstin Susel because I keep forgetting to introduce all of us, but here we all are and ready for another edition of the Cardinals podcast.
I would hope by now you know who we are and we don't have to repeat it, but we're going to do it for the benefit of those who are just now tuning in.
Dang it, I wrote it down, so we're saying it.
It's good. It's good. We made it back, and I'm glad that we're here so we can discuss and talk and dive into some good stuff and educate our people, man, and also let them educate us.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I like to do, it's laugh. And last night's Manning broadcast for the Ravens-Raiders game, fantastic game, but I think the best performances, in my opinion, might have come from Peyton and Eli because I was laughing the entire time.
Yeah, it's funny. ESPN has tried to get Peyton Manning to do Monday Night Football like traditional color commentary since he retired. They've offered him like tens of millions of dollars to do it. He said no. He's done like a sideshow. And this year, he like finally caved. And he's like, I guess I'll just do this simulcast, but you have to have my brother on it. And, you know, Peyton never does anything, you know, pardon my French, half-ass. So he's got like the helmet on going nuts. And Eli's just sitting there kind of dejected. So I'm with you. That
helmet that didn't fit.
His huge forehead. It makes me think Indianapolis had to like tailor his helmet back in the day, probably.
It probably did.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Peyton's head is definitely large, and definitely what you see on TV is doesn't reflect the actual when you walk up to it.
It's his big brain, right?
I mean, he has a lot of brain up there. He definitely tried to put it on display the other day. I mean,
did.
Look, the guy is one of the most intelligent quarterbacks you ever see. I call him the offensive coordinator of any team he's ever been on because he literally breaks down and talk about stuff that the layman, if you listen to it, you would think that, what? The guy's almost talking like rocket science on some stuff that you just doesn't make sense. He's calling out plays that I don't even remember some of the stuff that he says, and I just don't. It's amazing how well he's able to put it together and then explain it and break it down. That segment, if it wasn't called Step Brothers, because they definitely look like the show Step Brothers and Will Ferrell and others.
They do, yeah.
I mean, it just these guys are going back at each other and fighting, and if they got into a fight, a wrestling match, and maybe someone went over and slapped each other, I would definitely have been absolutely rolling again.
Eli threw some punches in terms of jokes over Peyton's way. I also learned, I feel like, more just like random side notes than I ever have before watching a football game. Like Peyton was talking about how at halftime everyone talks about like, oh, halftime adjustments or what was said at halftime. And he was like, there's no time at halftime. Like, but the time you get into the locker room and, you know, maybe you go to the bat, whatever you do, it's like, okay, 2-minute warning, go get back out there. And like they go over like 2 plays and like that was it.
So, Frank, do you guys like just go to the bathroom? They try to hydrate, maybe get an IV or what?
There's a lot of things that now, considering social media and everything else that these guys have, they're more. I'm pretty sure more guys walk in the locker room and grab their cell phones.
Would you tweet if it was now and you were a player? Would you be the kind of player who would get on their phone and start tweeting at halftime?
The monetary conversation that's behind that right now, I would say yes. And I'm just being honest with you because typically the old school guys, that would have never happened. There are just too many more avenues right now for guys to make money, and it's supposed to be accepted and allowed in some locker rooms based upon the fact that they know that we're pushing the game, we're adding fans to the game, we're creating content and having fan interaction in the midst of a game. There's probably a small window when you get to do that though, because when the coaches start calling you guys up and they start saying, hey, we need to make these adjustments, we need to do this, you need to get your together because you are getting your kicked, and that is saying something where and the
I
guys.
guess on this podcast we're allowed to say those words.
I
again,
know.
If you want
I'm just
to.
not.
I'm not encouraging it, but
okay. So I'm just going to excuse my French several times then. So, but I think that's the process. Guys get into the locker room and. Look, it is a game. It is serious, but there is a monetary value that's out there, and some guys will get into the locker room. They probably will grab their cell phones just to see what's going on. That's information. That's not like if you get your cell phone. Again, we have tablets. We have tablets when we get there, so you don't have to grab your cell phone specifically. You can look at the tablet and you can start going over the plays and you can review it because we have in-time instant replay. You guys, we have stuff that we can automatically begin to see what's taking place in the game and how a guy's defending you. So if I walked into the locker room and I thought, I'd be pissed.
So how do you think Taylor Lewan's tablet looked on Sunday afternoon?
Oh my gosh, more scribble scrabbles and.
Little did we know that tweet was actually drafted at halftime, just sent after the game.
Look, it's a business, and there's two sides of it. What happens off the field and what happens on the field. If you can balance it, that's great. But if you can't, you need to make sure you're focused because somebody. I always say it again. Somebody's on the other side trying to kick your ass, and you need to make sure you get your mindset ready because the other 10 guys are depending on you to do your job. And if you're not focused enough to do your job, you're affecting our money. You're affecting us winning. And at the end of the day, we saw the struggle. We saw how important it means to win in the last seconds. We saw Monday night, Thursday night. We saw the games, how it came down to last minutes heroics, and how the guys were so excited and it meant so much to get that W. That W means so much more after all the work you put in, and the guys. You don't want to get guys thinking that you're not focused, JV. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting on the side and you're tweeting, it might be.
Cliff
talking
loves
to your girlfriend.
the cell phone breaks though. Remember, like his first training camp. Chierstin probably remembers. They implemented cell phone breaks and it made like national news on ESPN. And people are like, Cliff, fraud. He's not cut out. This isn't Texas Tech. And now I think he might be a little bit ahead of the curve with that.
Well, he's in that generation. I mean, we're talking about one of the youngest coaches in the NFL.
Yeah.
We're not talking about an old school guy who smokes cigarettes.
You see Cliff and he looks
kind of
like Mr. Cell Phone.
I mean, he does.
It's not Mike McCarthy. It's Cliff Kingsbury, which he looks like a slick iPhone. The way he's like put together.
As someone who will admittedly say I have an addiction to my cell phone, I guess I would appreciate it. It can be a distraction, but I would appreciate a coach that just like allows me to check my phone.
That's the part where you allow guys to get that moment in and then get it out. Go do what you got to do. Come back. Let's focus. Because the reality of it is that the attention of guys is not that long. I mean, we're talking about social media, and we're swiping right in 1 to 3 seconds, and we're just swiping. We're swiping right. We're swiping left. We're up and down. We're scrolling. Look.
If you're on Tinder,
don't judge my hand on which way it moves.
If you had to pick one Cardinal player that's on Tinder at halftime, swiping left and swiping right.
Bro, there's girls in the stands, bro. I mean, when you get to the bench and you look up, that 13th to 17th to 25th row, it's not just all dudes with burly faces and just dressed up in Cardinal outfits and stuff like that.
Is that the section where people are flown in?
There's some bad bads up there in that front row, bro. And so when you get up there, you got to look and pay attention and be like, look, 5, 4, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hit me up.
So you had to spell out your numbers by hand.
Whatever you got to do. Yeah, you got to throw your hand signs up so they'll know who to call. You call one of the guys or one of the managers and say, look, right there. See her? Right there. Right. Two. One and no, not her. Right there. Grab her.
Fifth row,
fourth row over. Right there. That's the one. Get her number.
This is derailed.
But that's what happens. So like when you say you're going into those segments
I'm speechless.
No, I'm telling you, like this is what's happening during game time. This is what I'm saying. It is entertainment. There's a lot going on. There's a football game going on, but at the same time, I'm just letting you guys know what side. When you're looking at me, I'm looking back at you, and there's so many things that are going on that draws the guys' attention.
Clearly, there is more going on than I ever knew of.
We're all very happy now fans are back for more reasons than one.
Yes, the players are definitely happy. The single players are definitely happy that the stands are full now. Because there's a little bit more entertainment.
I wonder what would happen next press conference if I go ask one of the single players, hey, how happy are you to have the 13th through 15th rows back?
He's probably going to ask.
The talent in the 13th through 15th
yeah,
the talent. If you say the talent in the 13th, 15th, he'll be like, I'm here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. But it does happen, and I think that is watching the way these guys are right now, but you can still see that they're locked in. I mean, that's the beauty of it. You got to give a guy a pass. And if if a coach can adapt in this modern age, we're adapting to betting, we're adapting to so many things else in this game. We're adapting to female umpires on the field right now. So there's so many things we're adjusting to that's helping us grow the game. If that's just one place where you can get guys to focus and give them a little break to come back and focus, I'm all good with it.
Well, as ironic as it sounds, let's get locked in on some other people's podcasts. Larry Fitzgerald, I'm so glad that he is doing a podcast because at least we still, have a little bit of Larry in our lives, even though, he's not playing. We're sort of like he's easing his way away. Let's Go with Tom Brady, Larry Fitzgerald, and Jim Gray. I think it's a radio show and then also a podcast. He shared his reaction to the Cardinals' big win over the Titans in Week 1, shared what he was doing while he was watching the NFL games over the weekend, and it definitely wasn't what any of us were doing.
I was elated, man, to see them playing that well, to jump out in that big lead, and to see Chandler get to his 100th sack, to be the dominant defensive player and front runner, defensive player of the year right now was fantastic. And, to see Kyler be able to beat them with his feet and his arms, and, it was a decisive victory and, a great team victory. So I was happy to see him get it done.
So you're a couch potato now? What are you eating during the game when you're taking this in?
I definitely want to consider myself a couch potato. But it was fun to be able to get a chance to watch a few of the games around the league. It was great, to see the high-flying acrobatic catches and some of the unbelievable defensive plays, by, TJ Watt. There's some phenomenal players, and to be able to get a chance to watch it, kind of in depth from a distance is fun.
So you're not eating during the game?
Not the same things you're eating, that's for sure.
What are you eating?
Usually I'm having a smoothie, doing some crunches, riding a Peloton, just the normal stuff that everybody would be doing when they're watching a football game.
I'm going to hop on my Peloton during a football game and see how many calories I burn. Who does that?
It definitely won't be Frank Sanders. I'm looking at a bucket of chicken and some brewskis and some friends, and we playing some dominoes and talking some trash. Who's on the grill? What's going on? This is not. But Larry's fresh out. Larry also talking about a Peloton. He still might be up for contract money.
Yeah.
So he could get a call tomorrow and be like, I'm out of this joint. I'm no longer podcast Larry. Now I'm sitting inside of a locker room trying to figure out how to tweet in halftime.
First of all, that hurts my heart to hear Larry talk about the Cardinals like in the third person because he's not involved with the team. Mm-hmm. It's surreal watching that game Sunday and having Larry not be a part of a Cardinal victory for the first time since 2003. It blows my mind, but I'm glad he's still like semi-engaged doing this kind of thing because I think if he would just have cut the cord completely with football and gone dark, that would have been a harder transition. But the fact that he's invested, he's showing the team, in particular Kyler Murray, somebody he has helped maturate and mentor throughout his young career as an NFL quarterback. I think that's great to see, and I'm with you, Frank. I think there's an outside chance, and this is where we're going with this. This is speculatory, of course, that Larry, maybe early to mid to late October, early November, has an extended invite from the team. I mean, they've got a deep roster, but not deep where number 53 on the active roster can't be replaced by number 11. I still think it's an option.
Let me dive in that with you, too, because I like that. And I like to see it where it's more at the end of the season than it would be in the early parts of the season. I think that in itself brings about – that, to me, would bring more of a curtain call if it was a curtain call.
Yeah.
Instead of having to watch him grind out, and by the time we get to game 8, he has 7 catches or 15 catches, and I don't want to shortchange him like that's all he would give us. But I'm just saying, and if it's just the Cardinals, that might be one thing. But if he was someplace else, and he's still walking in the locker room with only 21 catches, and the star guy who's been there at a long time, by midway point is about how many numbers you think? 58, 62 catches by that time, and then Larry's at 21 to 12 maybe. And then he's I would prefer to see him on a curtain call where everyone's locked in. You need him. He's a viable option. And then if he wanted to do his farewell tour the last couple of games, he can start presenting that conversation to everybody where it's not a distraction, but yet it's still accepted amongst the players because they know that he came out of something to get into something.
Well, I think the first time we heard his comments really on, his potential retirement was also on this show. And he said something along the lines of like, we'll see how I feel. I think it was in like October, November, right? And so he's sort of by saying that, left the door open for, okay, like I'll check back in with myself. Let's say that. I'll check back in with myself, reevaluate. That's what I was going for. How I feel, midway through the season, and you're probably right. I mean, hopping on a Peloton, drinking the smoothies, doing the crunches while watching football. He's trying to stay in shape.
I would give it a better than 50% chance of happening. I also think he is unquestionably one of, if not the greatest, non-quarterback postseason performers in NFL history. And I think it'd be like picking up like a John Lester, somebody like that before the baseball playoffs, where you just get an automatic ace. Now, again, he's not what he was 10, 15 years ago, but you get him for a stretch run, playoff push, in January football. Yeah. All he's ever done is average over 100 yards per game in the postseason. He is the reason they got to the Super Bowl along with Kurt Warner, the mild success that they had with Carson Palmer, the playoff game against the Packers. I think you cannot dismiss that. Some players, Frank, that just rise to the occasion at the biggest stage.
He's been absolutely blessed and fortunate to do it, but he definitely has that extra gear that makes it seem like he still has something left to prove. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see him at the end. I think that's just a better position for him than it would be to see him now and then watch this game drag out.
Do you think part of it is, okay, I want to kind of reevaluate how I feel, but then also see where the team is at come November, and then he'll make his decision?
Absolutely, 100%. Because this team fell off last year, and that wasn't necessarily Larry's fault. He had COVID, that he was reevaluating some things last year. The team was banged up. I think this is selflessly him giving an opportunity to some younger guys. Christian Kirk in the slot. Larry's position is in a contract year. He's balling 70 yards and 2 TDs on Sunday. Rondell Moore has an opportunity also in the slot. Frankly, they've got a loaded receiving core right now. We haven't seen what A.J. Green can do yet on the outside. I think this is more like, hey, if you guys need me, if I feel like it, I'm available. We'll talk, later this fall.
I like it. I do. I think that I agree 100% what he's talking about, because the situation when he looks at, he says my time had changed. The changing of the guards happened. Like, it happened right before our face, even when they wet the bed, the last year at the end of the season.
We'll get that put on a T-shirt.
Well, I'm okay with that. I like that. With drip. Can I get the drip, wet the bed on it, though?
Don't say it.
I didn't mean it like that.
Okay. I didn't. It is all good. It is
a
all
DJ
good.
Humphries moment. I didn't mean it like that. Can I not wet the? But I do agree that he's in a situation right now where this coming back here has to be something where someone had to get hurt. Either A.J. Green had to get hurt or Christian Kirk had to get hurt. I'm not wishing that. So, but it has to be something where he can easily come in and start to implement himself in the game. Mm-hmm. If it's not that way, then we saw the changing of the guards last year and D Hops, and literally Larry turned it over. And D Hops came and said, "You pay me this money to be the guy I am. You pay me the money so I can be with Kyler for a long term." And then here we are. We're shining like the stars we're supposed to be. And I'm ready to take ownership of that. And he did that in a way that it wasn't embarrassing, it wasn't distasteful, it was classy,
graceful.
It was, and then Larry just kind of went off how it was supposed to be.
Speaking of other people's podcasts, Patrick Peterson, All Things Covered podcast with Pat P and Bryant McFadden. Here's Pat P on how he thinks he's going to be received at State Farm Stadium on Sunday when he makes his return with his new team.
How do you think the fan reception would be for you? Knowing that there are a lot of people that still rock with you to this day, and some people kind of get things misconstrued based on some of your statements regarding certain people in the organization, not the organization, not the city, not the fan base. Right. They take things and run with it based on what they hear, not actually listening. But how do you think, you will be received when you step back on the football field there in Arizona?
I have no idea, Matt. I really, really don't. Like, it's gonna be all new to me, you know what I mean? So I really don't know what to expect, So for the most part, I'm treating this like a regular game. You know what I mean? I don't get too high, I don't want to get too low. I want to treat this literally
no question. Don't get too high. Exactly. Don't get too high, because sometimes when you get too high, it kind of takes the focus off what you need to do. So,
like a regular game, have a great week of preparation, go to Arizona just like we was going to Cincinnati.
I think Pat P wants to say more, which I'm surprised that he still does a podcast mid-season. I feel like he wants to say more, and one day he will, but he's sort of tempering things.
I play golf with Pat. I play golf all summer, until he actually left to go to Minnesota. Many opportunities. We talked about some things on why he thought it was time for him to leave. And my question is the defense the team that they're going to call out this weekend? Or will it be the offense that they'll call out for the Minnesota Vikings? Because typically I think it's our offense will be called out this week, and then our defense, and then their defense will be called out. Because that's the only way he's going to hear the boos. If it's not, that's the only way he'll really hear.
You are a shameful fan if you boo Patrick Peterson. I will go out on a limb. I'm disappointed with how he left Arizona. I wish he would handle his trade demands like Chandler Jones, where he just goes out, puts his head down, and balls. I love that Patrick is outspoken. If you are a fan and you can't recognize the 10 years of greatness and potential Hall of Fame credentials that he put together for this organization, that will be very disappointing.
I'm going to slide across this table and tell you exactly what you told me last week. Frank, if you take a consensus of the room, of the fans, and what I'm getting, true. I'm just going to let you know off the top, the fans will not accept the conversation you just gave them. They're going to boo the shit out of him. And why they're going to boo the S out of him is because they remember the guy that they're going to say that got all that money, and then at the end of the day, he was giving up touchdowns. He was doing these things. He was doing that. And unfortunately, he left in the same situation where
suspended.
It wasn't a good situation. It looked like he was not giving all his effort. Now, in the locker room, I love Pat P. I want Pat P. But I'm going to do what you did to me last week, and I'm just going to say, what's your return on that?
Let's take the high road, Bird Gang.
All right.
Recognize that Byron Murphy right now is a better player than Patrick Peterson. That's not arguable. Patrick Peterson had a lesser PFF grade than Byron Murphy. Patrick Peterson didn't go up against A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. Okay. It's not our problem, right? We're not paying him $7 million. So let's welcome him back. Let's cheer him when he comes out, and then let's beat the brakes off Minnesota. That's what the expectations should be, but I'm with you. I do think he'll be booed.
You guys,
I agree.
I
boo the crap out of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Cardinals were kind of the ones that chose to part ways with him because they didn't want to pay him the money that he wanted, and I don't know that fans were necessarily super upset about it. There are some things that happened with Patrick Peterson over the course of, I guess, the ending of his career here in Arizona that left a bad taste in people's mouths. But also I think there's some people that just understand that, like, this is how it goes. Like you said, it's no longer a problem. So I don't know. He'll probably get a little bit of both. But did you guys hear the Josh Gordon news? He's apparently finished his latest program and is waiting for Roger Goodell to reinstate him. What do you think the over-under is?
You mean Smokey? You mean Smokey? Smokey Gordon?
Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way. Do not bet your free $200 via the DraftKings app that Josh Gordon will be a member of the Arizona Cardinals. There are much better ways to do that. DraftKings, promo code PHNX, rather than put it on the Cardinals this weekend, the money line plus minus, I believe, 3.5 right now. Again, do not put your money on Josh Gordon coming.
I was just going to ask you if you think that there will be at some point a chance to bet on whether or not he's going to get picked up by a team.
Oh, okay. It's a long season, 17 games. It only takes 1 of 32. I would say better than 50% chance, yes, that he gets picked up by somebody. Because at the end of the day, teams feel like, hey, I can take a flyer, pay this guy vet minimum money. If something happens, I can cut bait. No one's going to give me grief for it. Seattle tried to last year. They've got a loaded receiving core.
Honestly, his situation is by far one of the most merciful and gracious situations you can probably find in NFL history. And I mean, from a guy that's struggling with something and it's affecting the team. Teams are giving him time after chance after chance after chance after chance.
I don't think we've seen anything like it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it's a marvel that even Roger Goodell has to sit and say, if I give him this chance, am I hurting him? And I think that is the beauty part. That's the beautiful part of the league, that it believes in you, believes in your talent, and it believes that one moment or one situation might be able to change you and help you. And then there's another part of the league that says we're covering up something that seems to be a consistency. And the over-under on that's really on him. And it takes nothing more than a video to see this guy running a 4.21 out in some place with some tights on and a little Speedo shirt and catching balls one-handed, 6'4", 225-pound receiver that runs lightning. That it takes no more than the eye of a scout to say, shit, I want that. And all we can get maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. That's right. All we need. It's not hard to say run that way, and it's not hard to say run that way. But it's damn sure hard to try to recall plays that, red right, split right, two over dragging, dog leg left. Yeah, that is just he probably can't remember that. But hey, get on the outside dog, run that way, and if you're open, I'll throw it that way.
Well, that's kind of how teams have been utilizing him over the last few years. But like his nickname Flash, he's gone in a flash, and we don't hear from him until this time, like the following year or two, for when he's trying to get reinstated. Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to.
But it's a beautiful thing that the NFL does that, though, for him.
I agree. But to your point, too, I think maybe it's to the point where it might be like sort of enabling. So they got to consider that. Maybe, Johnny, at some point you'll write an article about whatever team decides or doesn't decide to pick him up. If you decide to become a member at gophnx.com, you'll be able to read that article, anything else that Johnny decides he's going to write on the Cardinals. We've got member-only deals right now on our merchandise, PHNXLocker.com. You're going to get access to our members-only Discord, where you can chat it up with us outside of the BS on social media. If you love what you're doing over here, want to support us, we do have another promo going on right now. You get a free t-shirt or your first month for just 50 cents, depending on which option you choose. All right, Derrick Henry fantasy owners, they're probably bummed after he was held to just 58 yards rushing, 0 touchdowns on Sunday. Well, Chase Edmonds had 63 yards on 12 carries, and James Conner had 53 yards on 16 carries. Guys, loved what I saw out of the duo. Something that Cardinals Chase Edmonds was asked about was the importance of what they do in the run game when the Cardinals are up like they were on Sunday, and to be able to keep them up. So here he is.
And that's something that me and James talked about literally on the sideline. I think it was right after we scored that, when we hit 31, I believe. I was talking to him. I said, man, this is our time. We got to really grind these guys out. We got to get some first downs and just continue to tire them out, lean on these boys, and take it home. And that's something that me and James take pride of, man. Me and him play with a huge chip on our shoulder. We kind of know what the outside world and the media is saying with us and everything like that. Just continue to just lean on one another and continue to go out there and grind, man. And that's all it's about, finding ways to just figure out to have one more point than the other opponent. Obviously, you keep going down the season and games get longer, and, you go into December, November, January. The teams that can run the football and really have stout defense and hold teams in the second half, those are the ones you see in the playoffs. So, obviously, again, it's something for us to just build on every single week, week in and week out in the run game. The one message we're really trying to start in this building right now is that it was just 1 week, just a starting point, kind of just like Cliff said. Last year we got off to a decent start. We were, I think, 2-0. And then we blew one week 3. So, again, we're just trying to take this 1 week at a time, one game at a time, figure out our next opponent, figure out how we can beat the Minnesota Vikings, and keep moving forward.
There's a lot to unpack there. First off, what is the media saying about Chase Edmonds and James Conner that would be perceived as negative?
Chase Edmonds has been back up for most of his career since he got here. Little known fact, I actually called his name on draft day.
Oh, nice.
For the Cardinals up off of Route 66 when he was
I remember
drafted.
that.
I was like,
Frank Sanders.
With the pick in the draft, the Cardinals would take Chase Edmonds running back, blah, blah, blah. I did that. So, but I think that I've always liked what he brought to the table. I just think that if we watch our season, how it worked out and how it looked, he never really got a chance. And then when they went and got Kenyon Drake and he became the spark, it just changed the entire offense. It changed the narrative of giving him the ball. Behind what Kenyon was already doing. Then they paid Drake the money. So the guy that's got the money, you're going to show him the rock more than you're going to show anything else. And then James Conner, he hasn't been healthy most of his career. He looked like he wanted to be a Le'Veon Bell when he left Pittsburgh, and now he just didn't. He just injury after injury just plagued him. So they haven't proven themselves much. And I do add to this notation is that the yards we saw the other day was primarily because Cliff kept calling the running game.
Yeah.
He kept trying to keep a balance and keep those guys involved. Normally, he goes away from it, and he's done that in the past. We've gone away from the running game, and on downs that seem like you should be running the ball or managing the clock. And I think he did a fabulous job of that, and the guys put their bodies on against Tennessee like they said they did.
I guess I get stuck in my Arizona bubble sometimes because I felt like Cardinals needed to move on from Kenyon Drake, and I thought that Chase Edmonds and James Conner, regardless of what you just said, was an improvement.
I would totally agree. And fantasy enthusiasts hate the Cardinals backfield because they want a prototypical bell cow that they can lean on every week, a la Derrick Henry. Everybody, including myself, wanted a certain Steeler running back now who didn't do much over the weekend, and Najee Harris. What I can tell you is I'm right with you, Chierstin. Last year, Kenyon Drake, too much outside. He wasn't squaring up his shoulders to hit the hole. Now you've got a combination of two backs that are hungry, that are playing for, I don't want to mess with the guy's money, but they're playing for almost nothing at the position, and that's what wins the NFL. Last year, Tampa Bay had a bell cow, did not have a bell cow. They had Leonard Fournette, they had Ronald Jones, not paying much to them. Year before that, Kansas City, Damian Williams, a bunch of spare parts, they won the Super Bowl. That's what's sustainable in the NFL. You have to have a couple different guys who do certain things well. You don't want to have the Ezekiel Elliott situation where you're paying somebody like $15 million. The Cardinals need to take that money and allocate it elsewhere at the positions that matters, and we saw it on Sunday. Where'd they allocate that? The defensive line of scrimmage with J.J. Watt, who performed. Chandler Jones, he performed. You start paying running backs, you become too top-heavy. I think what they bring from a receiving standpoint, Chase has worked on that exceptionally well since his first year to now. He's going to look up every Sunday, and he may not have 150 yards rushing, but he'll have 50, 60, 70 yards rushing with like 50, 60 yards receiving, and that's just as good. And then you've got James Conner, who brings a physical presence that they have not had at the running back position maybe since like Edgerrin James, somebody who really can square up. We saw this stiff arm on Sunday. The fact that they were so putrid last year in short yardage situations, and I know they weren't faced with a ton of those Sunday, but that's really something to watch for. His physical presence, where you can get him in there. I mean, he's 6'1.5". He's a big guy. We've seen him at Cards Camp. He's going to change the dimension of this team. I'd love to see Kyler get under center and do a straight drop back to James on short yardage, but I love what they have, in part because it's economically sound from a salary cap standpoint. I just think the guys complement each other well.
So he did mention, and actually just in the last few days, the Cardinals continued to mention, hey, it's just week one. We can't get ahead of ourselves. I found myself not sitting there saying, oh, the Cardinals are going to go to the Super Bowl, but just getting like really excited about all the individual storylines, all the guys that had good games, all the guys that returned from injury. I mentioned Corey Peters was one of my favorite storylines. He was one of the feel-good stories from Sunday. He ruptured his patellar tendon late in the season, had to have surgery. The guy didn't get signed until August, I think, 2nd, so just our 4th, a little over a month ago. So he also spoke with reporters today, and he was asked, was he expecting to be ready for week one, and just how it was to be back.
You know, when I had surgery, what we talked about was potentially being ready for week one. And what that looked like, we weren't exactly sure if that means, yeah, you're cleared to play, but you haven't been able to prepare. But I've been very pleased with the process. You know, I feel like I had time to condition and to work my way back into things, and I'm happy with where I am.
As a player, having a season-ending injury, having to go through an entire offseason and the offseason that you did, not signing a contract till camp, just everything that you went through, you know, how was that whole process? And then to go out and have a game, you know, like week one, probably couldn't have asked for a better, you know, welcome back.
It was incredibly difficult. Obviously, you know, when you have a major injury, a lot of the process is take a step forward, take 2 steps backwards. So it can be very frustrating, very much so a roller coaster of emotions. Obviously, with the contract situation, not being on the team, obviously that creates more stress. But it really just gave me an opportunity to kind of just focus on myself and what I needed to do to get back stronger, get healthy again. And so I'm very grateful for that. And, you know, having an opportunity to come back here, I was ecstatic about that. And, you know, now that the season has started, we were able to get off to a good start. So, you know, I think that excitement is only building. And now we're looking forward to Minnesota.
So remember, he had to basically have a tryout during camp to even be on this team. So again, just he is a big part of what they're doing. Cardinals are lucky to have him, and he's thrilled to be here.
He is Jordan Phillips' insurance, and so far Jordan has not shown up. And that's been one of the most unfortunate developments of really the past 2 seasons, that Jordan Phillips signed this big bloated contract in last spring, 2 springs ago, I should say, and has been MIA. And he was MIA all training camp, so much so that Corey had interest from other teams and chose to come back and try out with his club to be a part of what they're doing. And I was so excited for him on Sunday. He played so much more than I thought he would. I mean, for a guy, he's not coming off his couch in the sense that he's out of shape. Clearly, he's kept himself in phenomenal shape. But to just kind of bypass all team activities until late August, and then, oh, by the way, here's week 1 against Tennessee, and you're playing like 60% of the snaps, it was unbelievable.
Look, every older player like me, and I'll say that former player, older player, looks at guys and their training habits and their regimens right now and be like, that's some bullshit, bro. Like, he don't even get to play. He doesn't practice. He doesn't do anything. He's just on a cycle.
Work smarter, not harder.
I mean, yeah, that's great now, but I'm like, shit, we worked even harder and thought we were smarter. But, like, it's like now, and it's just, it's mind-blowing in the technology. It's mind-blowing in how these guys, and he talked about it, the mental roller coaster, not having a contract. He allowed us to see certain things that happen emotionally and mentally about these guys individually, and they have to buy in and believe in themselves that they can come back and overcome that. And there's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, especially with an Achilles. That is, I've seen Andre Wadsworth go front 1 leg, and then in 1 week before we released him to go back to practice, he blew the other one out. So it's not an easy process, and I just marvel at like, some of the way these guys are still able to perform and go out and play, knowing that they didn't do or put the work in like we've called ourselves old grunts, putting that work in. Now, again, I'm a wide receiver. I'm a flamboyancy guy, so I'm not in there tackling, banging every day. I'm not going like I was the guy doing the grunt work, but I'm just saying I was there, having to be there to watch these guys. So I was pissed having to watch fat boys do fat boy stuff. I want to be doing the cutesy stuff on the outside, catching the ball, dipping and running the routes. I want to do that stuff. But, look, it's an testament. And he's another guy reaping the benefits of having 2 studs on the outside of him, though. Having JJ frees him up going one-on-one. The same thing having your boy CJ on the other side frees him up. So that is a good thing for him. And hopefully the other guy will show up and realize that, hey,
where
man,
are you, Jordan? We want you to play.
If you don't
want to watch
up,
you play well. You had 9.5 sacks 2 years ago. What happened to that?
And that will be seen as the season goes, because these other guys, they're going to call him on his carpet. Bro, you got paid. What's up?
I don't even know if we know what he went on IR for. I haven't seen it. I don't think they've released that.
He might be taking mental days, and we just don't know.
Well, I mean, he should go hang out with Malcolm Butler then.
Maybe he should. I don't know.
I have no idea what's actually going on with him or Malcolm Butler. You still keep in touch with Andre? I
do. I see a lot of the guys every now and then. Andre's still in the Valley. He has a church that he developed over in North Scottsdale. Yeah. He's pretty busy. His wife is Subin. They got beautiful kids. They look like they a power couple. One's 6'5" and 200 and some pounds, and Subin's like 6'4" model with the perfect 97 32 teeth. It's absolutely amazing. So, but they are great people. Means. Well, she's got just a beautiful smile. As a model, you got the perfect 32s. You know what I mean? Or 28s or 27s. How many of you got?
These are Frankisms that will just chalk that up.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out down the road. It's locker room talk. So, hey, Chierstin, how you doing?
All right, and we move on here. Okay, Johnny. I downloaded the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Good. I placed my $1 bet,
nice.
And I've got this $200 in free bets waiting in my account. I'm like somewhat afraid to use it. Like, I just don't want to, like, it's like my first time. Yeah. I don't really want to like make the wrong bets. Mm-hmm. But I came across week 2 specials here. Chandler Jones plus 1,000 to record 4 or more sacks this week. And Kyler Murray plus 500 to have 5 or more combined passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. I feel like those are probably not the ones to go with.
As much as I would love to see them replicate last week's performance, if I had to pick either, I would pick Kyler Murray's on a tear right now. Joe Burrow just tore apart Minnesota. Like, I could, if I woke up Monday and saw he had 5 touchdowns, it would not surprise me. Chandler, after what happened, replicating that, because all week, and Frank knows this, they're going to say, we got to get help to the left and right tackle. Yep. We cannot let Chandler Jones beat us. Now, he might still get 1 or 2, but 4 is asking a lot. So there are other areas in which off-air I can recommend we dabble in, over-under passing yards for Kyler Murray, something I would look into. Maybe first touchdown scored. Christian Kirk's on a little bit of a tear. Everybody thinks this week that it's the Hopkins versus Peterson show, so you're probably not going wrong with his over-under for both touchdowns and receiving yards. So different ways you could go. I would steer away from both those, though.
Okay, good to know. Winners and losers of week 1. Frank, do you have your winner and your loser?
Mine is Jameson Winston, without a doubt.
Jameson Winston.
Yeah, 30 for 30, Mr. 30 for 30.
Did you just add?
It's
Jameis.
Jameson Winston.
We know where your head's at.
Yeah. I apologize. But Jamie Winston. No, I'm just playing.
You just call Jay at this point.
Yeah, but he is definitely my guy. Mr. 30 for 30. Sat behind one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He sat and took it. No one knew. He didn't even know he had to compete and go fight for the job this year. To walk into a neutral site and have to play and then still but face the great Aaron Rodgers, Mr. MVP, and you go out there and you just do your job and not be the guy that we thought had seen over the years with his antics and stuff like that. He's my winner. And then I think he said some stuff at the end of the game that was pretty on point, how they did that in return to the city. That's maturity. That's maturation in some areas. We got this win, and we was lucky to get this win, or grateful to get this win versus a really good team for the city and the people of New Orleans, because Hurricane Ida just came through. There's a lot of people still back in New Orleans watching the game, and they need us for emotional support. That to me is some sense of growth, and 5 touchdowns ain't nothing to sweat. It's just not. I bet no one took that bet. I bet that wasn't an over-under.
Not me.
In regards to that conversation. You thought he was going to dominate against Aaron Rodgers. I didn't. So, but to me, I think that is. I want to see him keep doing it. He could be an MVP candidate conversation-wise in that offense if he keeps replicating how he's doing right now.
Johnny?
A winner this week, I would say Derek Carr last night, Monday Night Football, kicking off the opening of, I think it's Allegiant Stadium for the Las Vegas Raiders. I've got a soft spot for Derek because I think he faces a lot of what Kyler Murray faces.
Go ahead.
That he has to carry.
I didn't even catch that.
Bullshit. I'll do it again.
He has to carry an organization that sometimes can't get out of their own way. Derek's defense, not particularly good. He's got some inconsistent skill players. Like to see him have his moment last night. Beating a Baltimore team that's consistently in the playoffs. Yeah. The Raiders and the Cardinals have a lot of similarities in which last year high-powered offenses fell apart at the end, didn't get in the playoffs. Derek Carr, to me, is one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks. It was good to see him win last night.
It's a good call.
Wait, who was your loser?
Do I get to pick one now? I would say probably in that same game, Lamar Jackson, who fumbled twice on his final 2 possessions that led to touchdowns for the Raiders. Our producer Shane knows for a fact on our bet show that I picked the Ravens to be a regression candidate this year. It was expedited last night. The Ravens, to me, they've got talent, but again, they've lost too many players to injury. And I put this out on Twitter last night. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. If mid-season the Ravens have fallen apart, Lamar Jackson, they're out of the postseason race, certain defensive lineman named Calais Campbell's on a 1-year contract for them, I wouldn't mind shipping a pick, bringing him back to Arizona for the stretch run. But that's going a little bit out on the ledge there.
How about you, Cheers?
Well, I wanted to producer Shane, do you got anything? You have a winner or a loser?
I don't have a mic, so I can
okay.
Yell. My winner is probably the Seattle Seahawks defense.
Seattle Seahawks defense. Okay.
My loser is the Jaguars. They look like the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, that was embarrassing for the Jaguars. Yeah, I agree with that one. Okay, so my winner is basically all NFL coaches. So I found out today that the league has ended requiring head coaches to do conference calls with reporters covering the upcoming opponent. So they no longer have to do the phone call with the other team's reporters, which I've only actually ever been a part of so apparently it was the Broncos beat reporters were the ones that discovered it because they wanted to talk to Urban Meyer because he was a loser in week 1. And they were the ones that figured this whole thing out. So there was no official announcement. The only time I've ever been on a call with the opposing coach was actually while I was covering the Broncos in Colorado. So it's not like a huge thing for most reporters, I would say. But I can tell you there is nothing probably more annoying to head coaches. Because here's the thing, and I noticed this when I was covering the Suns during their playoff run, when like national media starts coming in, and it's like, dude, we've been asking since like preseason about their bubble run last year and how that's helped prepare the team, for this year and got them closer. And now we're in the NBA finals and you're still talking about what happened in the bubble last year. And so that's probably for like head coaches, it's like probably a way beat reporters ask the same questions that they've already answered a million times. So that's why I say NFL coaches are the real winners.
I thought that was pretty. I'm surprised to even hear that information. I didn't know anything about that. So, but I'm gonna ask a question for you guys, just because you guys are in the media all the time. You guys are always dealing with players, or you're dealing with other media people from different places. My question is it an unspoken rule that you're supposed to share your information with the other team or another reporter from someplace, or is it frowned upon that you don't share? If you be like, hell no, I came to the locker room, I got up, I did all the work, so. No, I'm not. Somebody might say, "Hey, what do you think? What did Pat P say, or what did D Hop say in the meeting when you guys were there?" And you're like, "I'm not."
I'll defer to Chierstin on this.
With people who, like, for instance, if I'm
in the media from Denver and I'm not there, Denver. Like since we can't do coaches of the other team, and they might know something that I don't know. I'm asking, so as a person you guys are in the media and you guys are back and forth with different people, different phone calls and stuff like that, is it frowned upon that you? Are you supposed to share your information? If I call from WDNX from some place over some city in Texas, Midland, Texas, and I say, "Hey, little lady, Miss Chierstin, what you find out over there and over that? What did Cliff say about that? That team? Are you gonna share me? Are you supposed to share me or not?"
So I would say the dynamic isn't necessarily like that, but there is a pretty close knit dynamic within reporters.
Okay.
Or within the media. So, for instance, if somebody from Denver was asking about, like, if it was the Cardinals and the Broncos and I was in the press box, like, usually we kind of like pick each other's brains a little bit, just like I would if I was at practice and there was a lot of the times, there are people that work for the Cardinals and stuff like that. Those are some of my favorite people to have conversations with. And I'll just say, what do you think about, Kyler Murray? What do you think about, the running backs? Just whatever. And I just listen to what they have to say. So I think a lot of the media dynamic is like that, where you kind of just pick everybody's brain. Now, you wouldn't like call over there and say, hey, give me like all of your like one-on-one interviews so that I can use them or anything like that. Okay. But the dynamic is pretty close knit.
Okay, cool beans. I thought it was gonna be like a kick your butt.
Cutthroat, man.
No.
Yeah, don't use that soundbite.
No,
you better source me on this.
Because we're all really hard workers, and like we really do. I mean, like work really hard, and so I think there's a mutual respect in that regard and that's why you form friendships and things like that, and then you don't have to then it's just two friends talking.
Coaches are the winners.
My loser would be Titans kicker Michael Badgley. So he was released or waived yesterday.
You said it, Johnny Fax said
Guess who they signed to replace him? She'll tell you.
Why don't you tell us?
Out with the old and in with Zane Gonzalez, correct? The former Arizona Cardinal kicker.
I thought Charlotte signed him.
Oh, maybe not then. Maybe I fumbled through that.
Shane,
Fact
can you tell
checker
us?
Shane.
Well, what I can tell you is Badgley was with the team for like 3 or 4 days. So he missed an extra point and a field goal, and he's out. So, I thought it was Yeah.
Put the down.
I actually don't know that they signed anyone, so I was going to let you like break the news because I was like, I don't know.
I'm not tapped in on Tennessee after this week. I don't have to look at that team
Look,
again.
Mike Vrabel has no problem going for it on fourth down. He has no problem going for it on fourth down. And there is a statistical fact for one of the coaches, high school coaches that did that number. You guys know the story like probably better than I do. Look, he said, forget kicking. My percentage of my chance of doing better and giving my team another chance mentality-wise is saying it's not just 3 and out. We got 4 downs to try to get a first down, to try to get a touchdown. And sometimes Mike Vrabel has no problem with literally going for it on fourth down. He has no problem with it.
Well, he has problems when he doesn't go for it on fourth down and the kicker misses the field goal, apparently.
Yeah.
The Titans waived Badgley and they don't have a kicker right
That's what I thought. Okay.
That's fine.
That's
Isn't it okay?
Almost
midweek. You don't have a kicker for your Sunday game.
Absolutely. You pick a kicker up in a heartbeat. I told you what did I say?
They play Seattle this weekend though, so we need them to find a competent kicker so they can win that game.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Another good show. Frank Sanders, Johnny Venerable, producer Shane, and for myself. We'll see you back here tomorrow.